Hello you, it's me. Today we're going to talk about Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson, the second book in the second era of Mistborn. This is going to contain spoilers for Era 1, Mistborn, so if you haven't read that, you should leave. I'll mark some different bits on the time bar down below, so click around if you want. I think this is going to be a very short book review because most of my thoughts on Era 2 are sort of continuations on my thoughts of Alloy of Law, which is book 1. And I don't really want this to be a copy-paste of my Alloy of Law review. This is set 300 years after the end of Mistborn Era 1, where Sazed, just like in the prophecies, took up the power of preservation and ruin, who were essentially warring gods, united their powers and used them to reshape the world into something that existed before the Lord Ruler took up rule. Just like in Alloy of Law, the two magic systems of Allomancy and Feruchemy now work in tandem, as people have the ability to be born with one or one of each, opening up a whole new world of power combinations and interesting ways to use those powers. Now, even though the world has been reshaped into something idyllic, there is unrest. A year after the events of Alloy of Law, killings are happening across Elendel, and the working class both in the city and in the roughs is being in flames to riot. The now firmly upper class, Wax Ladrian, and his misfit kleptomaniac friend, Wayne, accompanied by Marassi, the time-slowing sleuth sister of Wax's bride-to-be, must uncover what's behind the disruptions. What do the people causing them have to gain from them before riot and demonstration become open rebellion and revolution? Can the power vacuum the Lord Ruler left behind last forever? Will a class divide always establish itself? Will human greed persist even in a land of providence, and what is the cost of that providence? Just like the first book in Era 2, this is a buddy cop story in a fantasy setting, with characters who in Book 1 we instantly liked and now are emotionally attached to. While Book 1 felt a bit like a closed loop story, and I couldn't really see how events were going to kick off after it, and I wasn't really sure what the whole direction of Era 2 was. Unlike Era 1, where you know the vague plot from Chapter 1, this book definitely feels like it's setting up for something much bigger to happen. I'm still not sure whether I feel like the events that are going to happen in Era 2 are going to be as world-shaking as Era 1, but now I'm invested in finding out what's actually going on, and I think I like this more than Alloy of Law. Saying that, this book moves at a much slower pace than Book 1, which is weird because a lot more exciting things happen, but maybe it's because those exciting things that happen aren't all fight scenes like they were in Alloy of Law. There's a lot more in the way of conversation in this one. We really start to see some character development here. I'm not too salty that there wasn't a lot of character development in Book 1, but in this one we do start to see it. People are growing. Marassi is becoming as situationally useful as Wax or Wayne. We're starting to see more from Steris, who didn't really do anything in Book 1. Wax's development came quite late in this book, but we really start to see a lot more from Wayne. In terms of who had my attention through the book, it was a lot more on him than on Wax because his passages were faster paced, they were more exciting. The voices of all the characters are becoming more concrete as they're all starting to get time in the spotlight. And it feels now that the series is finding its feet with humour that no longer feels out of place. We get recurring characters in this book, and for me that ties it much more back to Era 1 than all the place name drops that we get. And halfway through this book, I really started thinking of this as a continuation of the Mistborn series rather than its own separate thing. I know it is separate really, but for me now, it's all Mistborn. Whereas I wouldn't have said that when I was reading Alloy of Law. Other than these characters coming in though, because that's what gave this a different vibe in my mind than Alloy, there's not a lot of distinction in my mind between the two books. However, this one did feel at the end it was setting up for more story, whereas Alloy was like, yep, done. And I'm guessing that's a symptom of it just originally having been intended to be a standalone short story adventure. As I said in my Alloy of Law review, Sanderson gets huge originality points for taking a fantasy world build and moving it on through different ages, rather than just keeping it stuck in one era of history. I don't know if it's just me, but I thought this one had much bigger Industrial Revolution vibes, whereas the previous one was cowboys, cowboys, cowboys. This one starts to add to the questions that the first book began to ask. More about the responsibilities of a god, about intervention, questions about the few suffering for the many, who gets to make that choice, and whether it's right for them to do so. Questions about whether it's ever right to stop a revolution that's opposed to inequality and a class divide. I think one big focus of both of these books so far is hammering in the idea that a different era requires a different kind of hero and showcases a different kind of heroism. Stuff I liked. Spoilery bits. Kendra are back. Book 1 was dropping a lot of hints about them still existing in the universe. We still haven't seen a full-blooded Colossus yet, so I am still waiting for that. Kendra for me are one of the best parts of Sanderson's world build. I've really not seen a race like them in anything else. I love them so much. In Era 1 I did feel like they had more to give, so I'm glad they've returned as an integral part of the story. I love the use of sort of hemalurgy in the spikes used by the religion that worships harmony, and I like the conversations that these allow. Having the god of a world as a character who is flawed, that has stakes in things going on, and a motive, even by the end of this book, that we don't really understand, makes this very interesting. Stuff I wasn't too keen on. I think the one thing I want to pull this up on is something similar to something I pulled Era 1 up on, and it's a habit that Sanderson has, which really is good, I guess, where he lays everything out very, very clearly for the reader. In Era 1, it was a case of all the way through fight scenes, you'd read Vin burnt copper, Vin burnt tin, Vin burnt bronze, Vin burnt steel. And it's like, yes, okay, we know how this works now. You don't have to keep saying that. In Era 2, I feel like I'd like the group to face people who are using their abilities to have these very well choreographed fight scenes that Sanderson can write, but then to have us as the reader infer what's going on and who's burning what and who's got what ability from the things we see unfolding. It's nice having it laid out, but I don't know if I like being spoon-fed 100% of the time. Just a minor grumble. Also, on the UK edition of this book, I don't know why the picture is somebody standing in front of a big mirror with a spooky face. So if anybody knows what that cover design is in relation to at all, let me know in the comments, please. I have Sanderson questions about what's going on, but I read this one and Bands of Mourning very, very close together. So I'm going to do a section at the end of the next review where I ask all my questions, lay out all my theories about what I think is happening. By then, I will have read Secret History too. Exciting. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see the rest of my Sanderson reviews. There's more reviews coming all the time. I read pretty quick. Don't forget to follow me on Goodreads and Twitter. I'll link them down below. And if you like sci-fi, don't forget to join our Interstellar Book Club, which is also linked down below. I'll see you soon for the next one. Bye.